Hi there, and welcome to Bourbon Turntable. We are the show that blends the love of music with the love of whiskey. And tonight I have with me, as always, Mr. Benjamin Eves. What's up, Benji?
Howdy, howdy.
Good to see you.
Yep, you guys as well. How's it
Yeah,
going?
good. Good. Do you have a good weekend?
It's been good. Caught a good live show, so no complaints there.
Yeah, who'd you see?
The Wood Brothers,
Yeah.
and they had Sean Harris open up. So not really wasn't going into this one. Wasn't really familiar with them at all, and came away a bit of a fan. Really enjoyed their music, and their stage presence is phenomenal as well. So
This is a new music, new whiskey show, so that fits
yeah.
right in with our theme. Drew Crawley,
Howdy, guys.
you had a big gig on Friday night.
Yeah, I did. Played a new venue,
Mm-hmm.
bar here in town called the Gold Nugget. Had some of the most interesting stage decorations you could ever imagine.
Yes.
So if you follow me on Instagram, you got a nice little treat of a Mrs. Claus mannequin that was very well endowed right behind me on stage. So
Yep.
that was lovely. But yeah, it was a fun night. Saw you and had some good friends come out. Good turnout. And
Yeah.
I mean, there's
Place
not
was
much
packed.
I love more than playing, music and drinking whiskey with my friends. So it was a
Yeah.
good time.
Yes, it was a good time, and you packed the place out. So
Yeah, had fun.
good stuff. Good stuff. All right. Well, want to tell you guys that we are a part of the Bar Cart Co-op, and that includes shows like Distillers Talk and My Whiskey Den, which Benji's also involved with. So be sure to check those shows out. My Whiskey Den shows on 9 o'clock on Monday nights live, and Distillers Talk, their shows drop pretty much every Thursday. So be sure to check all of those out. I know you'll enjoy them. And we have one more message we want to bring you right now.
Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, hit that bell notification. Don't forget to comment if you're watching live in the chat. Leave a comment down below afterwards. Always remember that thumbs up.
Yes, thank you very much, Mike. We appreciate that as always. Every week when we release a show, I get some sort of nasty message from Mike about stealing his intellectual property or something like that. So
Here I am caught in the crossfire.
Well, he shouldn't be so good at it, But as we mentioned, this is a new whiskey, new music show. We're going to do the new whiskey stuff first, but want to tell you that the new music we're going to be talking about is none other than Mr. Jack White, who has a new album out, released on the 8th of April. It is called Fear of the Dawn. And if you follow Bourbon Turntable on Instagram, you know that Jack is an unconfirmed guest for tonight's show. And so just hang on. He's had a lot going on this week, so he may be a little late.
Might be lurking back here in the green room.
He could be. He could be. You never know. I've missed people that have tried to be on our show in the green room. I missed Patrick. Logged on. I never saw him on there, and he never got on the show, and I feel very bad about that. But so that will be the new music part of it. We'll talk about Jack, his career with the White Stripes, the Raconteurs, and the Dead Weather, as well as his solo projects, specifically the Fear of the Dawn album. But first, we're going to talk about some new whiskey, and what I have is I've not even opened this yet. This is Cream of Kentucky Bottled in Bond Rye. And so I'm going to give myself a little bit of time to get the topper off, because sometimes these things can be tricky and I can really embarrass myself. So let's start with Drew. What are you drinking, sir?
Okay. Well, I'm actually drinking a sample that you brought to us Thursday when the three of us went out together. So I'm drinking the newest release of Blue Run Bourbon, distilled by a friend of us all in the bourbon industry and friend of the show, Jim Rutledge, out at Castle and Key, also keeping in your theme. So this particular one, like I said, was distilled at Castle and Key, 65 corn, 30% rye, 5% malt, and it comes in at 111 proof. This is really, really tasty stuff. Was sipping on it earlier. Big cinnamon note comes right to the forefront. Mm-hmm. Kind of a pastry thing too. I would liken it to kind of a waffle, and then it reminds me on the back end a lot of frosted mini wheats. For something that has such a high rye concentration, I was not expecting that. And so really the only spice note that I pick up is that cinnamon, and that's really only on the nose. Sips very gently. To be perfectly honest, I kind of balk at the Blue Run stuff on store shelves just because of the price tag. It kind of falls into a similar price point for me with like Four Gate, any of these NDP kind of setups that charge more than $100. I'm kind of like, eh. But this is really, really good. I would definitely spend the money for a bottle of this particular release. And I'm a fan. Yeah, really like this one.
Good.
You guys both had it. What did you think of it?
I haven't opened my sample yet. I'm going to have to get to that one. So looking forward to it, though.
Yeah, I was very impressed, and I would agree. I don't tend to gravitate towards NDPs that often, especially when it's everybody's got a. There was somebody that posted something on Facebook the other day asking about which one should I get, and it was 3 different whiskeys. All 3 of them were 6-year MGP. It doesn't matter which one you get. It doesn't matter. Just pick one or find something else. Okay.
Sure.
Be better. All right. But
I think our friend Blake might have something to say to you about that after last week's show, though.
Well, possibly.
I'm just teasing.
Yeah. That doesn't mean it's bad. Okay, I'm not
Mm-hmm.
saying it's bad at all. It's very good. But if you're trying to choose between 3 different sourced whiskeys that are all from the same place and all the same age, they're going to be a little different. But pick something that's even more different, more unique.
Sure. Sure.
But I like the Blue Run. I thought it was really good. We know that was contract distilled with Jim Rutledge, working the still at Castle and Key before Castle and Key really got their own distillation going. And basically Blue Run came in and said, all of this, we're buying it. And so that's a little different than your typical NDP.
Yep.
But I liked it. I thought it was very good. I was impressed.
Agreed.
Cool.
Benjamin, what do you have, sir?
Taking a real left turn here tonight, sipping on a cocktail, and this one was inspired by Jack White. So on a whiskey note, it appears that he has a big preference for Bullet 10-year is one of his main go-to bourbons to sip on. But he apparently likes his cocktails and has a preference towards grapefruit type flavors in those. So our good friend Christy concocted a cocktail based off of the menu of a bar he runs. And so this one has grapefruit shrub, chartreuse, gin, and Lillet Blanc, and it's pretty darn tasty. So
I like it.
That's
We're going to
very
have
cool.
to make a run up to Lexington and have Christy make some for the gang. Sounds delightful.
there you go.
Okay. So I'm drinking this Cream of Kentucky bottled in bond rye.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear what you think of this.
Okay. This is very complex. And here's what I mean by that. The nose, I think, is pretty sweet, like fruity sweet. And then you sip it, and some of that sweetness carries over, and you get a little spice that you get with that get attributed to rye quite a bit.
Right.
And then it gets earthy and leathery on the finish, and just the right amount of oak with it. It's very interesting that it kind of takes you on a journey from something that's you think is going to be sweet to something that is a little spicy, and then something that is a little earthy.
Right.
So it's very interesting. What would you say, Benjamin? Because this is distilled at Kentucky Artisan, right?
That's right. Yeah, this is 100% our distillate there. It's a 6-year-old. My understanding was there were multiple different barrels with different toasts and chars that were used in aging this before it was all being blended together. I think we bottled about 70 barrels on this one. But for me personally, I got to try this before it was bottled. And it blew me away. Honestly,
Mhm.
it's unique. It's different for a rye. I think it's got just a wonderful flavor and profile to it. For me personally, I found a lot of really deep orange notes to it.
Mhm.
A lot of orange and citrus going on. That leather, a little bit of chocolate, but it is complex, and it's coming from a distinct varietal of rye called Ryman rye. That's estate grown. And I think they're on about the 6th or 7th generation of that rye, the farmer that kind of has brought that one back. But 100% of that Ryman rye, I think there's a little bit of malt there in the mash bill on that.
Mhm.
But it's to me, it's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
I think I've had a number of the Cream of Kentuckys, the bourbons, and I
Mhm.
think this rye knocks them all. I mean, just
Yeah.
blows them all away, in my opinion.
Yeah. This is it catches you off guard because a lot of times you'll go into a rye with some preconceived ideas of what you think it's
Right.
going to taste like, and
Right.
this kind of takes those barriers or constraints and kicks them to the side, and you
Right.
get some of that fruitiness, like you said, some citrus in there. I didn't necessarily get that much chocolate with it, but
Okay.
I can see that. But it's a little, like I said, gets a little earthy, a little grassy, and I don't typically go for grassy, but it's still got that sweetness in there, so it's
Right.
just kind of really makes that nice and subtle, and then that leather and that little bit of oak on the finish. You can really feel it down the sides of your tongue, and
Right.
it really does take you on a journey. It's very cool.
Yeah.
So
So I think for me, this
congratulations.
one, yeah, thank you. I think this sets the bar really high for a
Mhm.
rye of the year in that category, so to
Yeah.
speak. See what Todd Leopold comes out with, anything new or interesting, but
Yeah.
or anybody else for that matter. But this one
Yep.
starting this year, that one just like wow, that's
Mhm.
that's going to be a tough one to beat, at least for me and my palate preferences. But
No, I enjoyed that. We'll have to get together
Yeah.
and sip on this one together sometime.
Sure.
So yeah.
Agreed.
Okay. Any other thoughts on the whiskeys anybody's drinking? Anybody got anything else new that you've tried lately that you really enjoyed?
It'll come up in our next show, so I don't want to tease it. But there is a new release from a historic distiller that is recently started to hit shelves around Louisville, and it is blowing me away by the $30 price point. Great proof on it, great flavor profile. One of my favorite noses that I picked up in a while, and you'll have to tune into next week's show to find out what it is.
I will. I'll tune in the next week's show because I can't wait to find out what it is. That sounds great.
You all have samples of it sitting in your desks, I'm sure.
Awesome. Looking forward to that.
Yeah.
I know that our friend Alan Bishop up at Spirits of French Lick, he has a special release out called Whiskey Witch, distillery gift shop only release.
Right.
So that is something new that's out there that you could dive into.
I've gotten to sample that one from the barrel, and that's a pretty special whiskey.
You son of a gun.
Yeah. No, that one for me, I'm anybody that's watched My Whiskey Den or this show should know I'm a huge fan of what Alan Bishop does. That to me is one of the standout spirits that he's produced. I mean, the flavor profile, how that comes off, everything, the complexity to it, it's just absolutely stunning. So
very cool.
But anyway, good stuff. I would highly recommend this Cream Kentucky Rye. So if you can find it, go for it. And apparently this is kind of a love of Jim Rutledge show because Drew has that Blue Run.
Right.
It is their high rye whiskey. That's 111 proof.
That's correct. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So would you recommend it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to hearing what Ben thinks about it when he tries it too. So all right. So we're kind of wrapping up side A of the show. We're going to flip it over to side B in just a minute. But first of all, we want to tell you about this event that is coming up on the 23rd of this month at historic Beck's Mill. Our friend, we just talked about him, Alan Bishop, is leading a presentation on the history of distilling in Indiana's Black Forest. And there's going to be a tasting there with Spirits of French Lick. And the presentation will be at 5 o'clock. Admission is $10. So that's a pretty cheap price tag to go in and get a tasting. I don't know what that tasting is going to be, but that's pretty affordable. And Beck's Mill is a pretty close drive from anything in the Kentucky or Indiana area. So, and I know that the presentation that Alan does will be chock full of history and interesting facts. So go to becksmill.org for more information, though I don't know what more information you could possibly need than I just gave you. So head out there on the 23rd. You may just see us there. All right. So let's talk a little bit about Mr. Jack White. First band was White Stripes. There is his non-wife or his non-sister and wife, Meg. As legend has it, he was married to Meg and tried to tell everybody that Meg was his sister.
Right.
She was not. They were married, and he actually took her last name when they got married, thus the name Jack White. So let's just talk a little bit about White Stripes. Fans of the White Stripes?
I think that might be my favorite Jack White expression.
Right.
Just kind of the garage rock thing, and just some of the guitar tones that he did. I am personally just a big fan of the analog recording style and everything else that he does. But the White Stripes records are the ones that I kind of first fell in love with. I keep up with the Raconteurs, not a big Dead Weather guy, and this is really my first foray into his solo stuff is getting ready for the show and listening to this new record. But yeah, the White Stripes is awesome. Awesome.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that, Drew. The White Stripes, I think, phenomenal. To me, it's just the sound and the music and everything. You hear it. There's no question who's playing. I mean, they've got it's so unique. It just and that's what I love about it. Musicians, we talk about cutting through the mix on a recording or something. For me, of all the music that was going on when the White Stripes hit, they really cut through the mix of everything. And stood out. So yeah, big fan. I love his approach from a distilling standpoint. To me, it's almost like Alan Bishop's style of distilling compared to a lot of others in that he does things the hard way, traditional, different and unique, and comes out with a sound and style that is just uniquely Jack White. And the Raconteurs I've enjoyed. I really haven't gotten into them that much. So I don't have an opinion one way or another necessarily. I've heard a few things. Nothing is really just like, oh, well, that's great. But out of everything he's done, the White Stripes probably to me is the what I flow more into.
I'm a big fan of the White Stripes as well. It's hard not to be. It's got that really stripped down sound, and at least the first couple albums especially were very blues based.
Right.
As they went along, it got away from that a little bit, but it was still there. It got a little bit more complex than just being garage rock blues. But great sounds, great songs, very distinctive sound. And first album came out in 1999, and let's see here. With on the far left, you've got the White Stripes self-titled debut album, followed by Distill. One of my favorites is White Blood Cells, which which I think gets a little overshadowed by Elephant, which was their fourth album, and understandably so, because it's a fantastic album and has Seven Nation Army on it, and everybody. Even if you don't know for some reason, you live under a rock and you don't know who Jack White or the White Stripes is, Seven Nation Army because you've been to ball game somewhere.
Yep. That was my walkout song when I played basketball in high school. So when they would announce lineups, that was the song that came on. I loved that one.
I can remember playing that for the first time for my boys, my older two, when they were little, and they just going wild, dancing and jumping all over the place in the room because how much they dug that sound and everything. Yeah.
When and I've probably referenced this a couple of times on past shows, but when my boys were in high school, they played baseball, and I was the PA announcer. And as the PA announcer, you got to choose the music between innings. There was a heavy dose of the White Stripes, not just Seven Nation Army. You know, we're doing some Black Math and Icky Thump and Ball and Biscuit, that kind of stuff. So, but then it came out after Elephant. It was Get Behind Me, Satan, and then the last of the White Stripes album was Icky Thump, and that was in 2007. But in 2006, in between Get Behind Me, Satan and Icky Thump, he formed the Raconteurs, and that was Jack on guitar and vocals, Brendan Benson also on guitar and vocals, Jack Lawrence on bass, and Patrick Keeler on drums. And Lawrence and Keeler were in a band called the Greenhorns, which their music's pretty good too, if you have a chance to listen to it. But the Broken Toy Soldier album came out in 2006, and then Consolers of the Lonely came out in 2008. Was nominated for a Grammy, and then we didn't hear anything from the Raconteurs for 11 years. And in 2019, Help Us Stranger came out, and I'm a big fan of the Raconteurs as well. I like the just it's enough of the White Stripes that you kind of get that quirkiness in it, but it's also some really good straight ahead rock and roll. And so I would highly recommend the Raconteurs. And then you kind of get into, after that, he gets into the Dead Weather, which is with Allison Mosshart of the Kills and Dean Fertitta with Queens of the Stone Age, and Jack Lawrence keeps with him playing bass, who is also in the Raconteurs. And so the Dead Weather comes in, Whorehound comes out in 2009, Sea of Cowards in 2010, and then there's a 5-year gap between that and the last album from the Dead Weather, which is Dodge and Burn. And I like the Dead Weather. It's got a different kind of quirkiness to it, and a lot of that I think stems from Alison Mosshart. Her vocals are very distinctive, and Jack actually plays drums on the Dead Weather, which is kind of a different thing. There is you can find it on YouTube. There's a concert that the Dead Weather live at Third Man Records. If you go and look that up, it's a really neat introduction to the Dead Weather if you're not really familiar with them. Some great live music there. And then
Let's check that out.
Yeah, highly recommend it because it's very cool because he'll lay down a drum track and then put on his guitar and come out front, play the guitar and sing a couple songs. So it's pretty cool.
Well, that's awesome.
Then you get into Jack's solo career, and his first solo album was in 2012, which was kind of in between the second and third Dead Weather album, and that was an album called Blunderbuss. In 2014 was Lazaretto, and that album really was very unique in terms of its impact on vinyl records. It for a long time it held the record for 1 week vinyl sales since 1991 or something like that. So it's really pushing the vinyl side of things is big for Jack. Then Boarding House Reach came out in 2018, and then came out on Friday, April 8th, Fear of the Dawn. And then coming out in July 22nd of this year is a second album called Entering Heaven Alive. So that's a lot of work. What is that? 3, 6, 9, 12, 17 albums in 23 years.
It's a pretty prolific career there.
Yep, pretty busy.
Yeah.
But to me, the way you can divide Jack White songs, regardless of band, whether it's a band or solo, you can divide Jack White songs into 2 categories. One are songs in which he yelps woo, and then 2 songs in which he does not yelp woo. And if you've listened to any of his music in any of the bands or solo, you know what I'm talking about. Woo! Okay, that's there. It's there, not in every song, not even on every album, but it makes it a lot of appearances. So that's how you divide Jack White music: songs in which he yelps woo, and songs in which he does not yelp woo. So take a note of that.
Understood.
Yeah.
Now I know we're here to talk about his music, but man, the haircuts. I gotta just say, this man looks more at home in a Tim Burton movie than he does in normal polite society.
You are not wrong on that, and I think that's a whole other thing in discussing Jack White is his approach to marketing himself.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
yes,
it's almost he's almost reminds me of like a wrestling promoter or something in the way he creates this public image of himself and the way he wants to portray himself in that. And I go back to I was going to ask you guys about the that kind of semi-documentary movie, It Might Get Loud, that he was in. Just the way he tries to present himself, even in that. I mean, you get some good background information on him, but you can just tell the showmanship that comes across in the way he does that. And it's I think to me that is as much the interesting dynamic about Jack White as it is the music itself.
Yeah. I love that whole movie. I grew up, playing music, right? Playing piano. Started on an acoustic guitar, and then somewhere late middle school, early high school, I don't really remember the year that came out, but I saw it sometime around there and fell in love with electric guitar. We just rented it from a movie rental place one night, and I was watching it, and my dad came in and he said, "Hey, what are you watching? This documentary about guitar or whatever." He goes, "Oh, you want to see some guitar?" And then he put on Stevie Ray Vaughan for the first time that I had ever heard it. So that has like a very strong positive
very
memory
cool.
for me.
Right.
That's very
cool. I that It Might Get Loud is fantastic.
Yeah, that came out in 2008.
Yep.
And for anyone that hasn't seen it, what are you waiting on? I think you can get it on Amazon Prime and watch it for like $3 or something.
Right.
I would highly recommend it. It is, of course, Jack White, as we've discussed, The Edge from U2, and Jimmy Page. And I came away watching that very impressed with Jack White's ability and his creativity.
Yeah.
But I also got the sense that he was trying too hard in that.
Right.
And I get it. At 2008, he had established himself through the White Stripes and done a couple of Raconteurs albums. And you're playing with the Edge and Jimmy Page.
Yeah.
You're either going to give up or you're going to try too hard. It's going to be one of the two. And I think I came away thinking, okay, he's trying too hard. But that movie, that documentary is really good, and really should watch it if you haven't. I need to watch it again. It's been a couple of years since I've seen it. So I'm going to give Jack White the greatest compliment that I think I could give a musician, and that is this: he could be a Wilbury. He could be a Wilbury.
Interesting take.
Okay.
Interesting.
Because right now there are openings. Okay. Unfortunately, there are openings in the traveling Wilburys, and if they're going to fill out that band again, I think the top of that list is Jack White.
I was going to say, there's probably more openings than positions filled right now. Isn't there?
Unfortunately, correct. I think the only positions we have filled are Jeff Lynne and Bob Dylan.
Right.
'Cause-
So this might spark another question. If you were to create a modern Traveling Wilburys 2 kind of thing, so you're starting with Jack White, who else would you include?
I don't know, because I thought Ben, I thought about asking you guys that question. And I thought that's too hard because there aren't who can measure up to that.
I get it. But if we're going to take because these guys, if you look though, all these guys are legends out of a certain generation, basically,
right?
For the most part. So now we're looking at a current generation of musicians. Just say out of the last 20 years, who would you throw in there?
I think you put Dave Grohl in there.
Okay.
I think you can put Josh Homme in there from Queens of the Stone Age and other bands. Man, it gets tough after that. It gets real tough after that.
Well, we were discussing this the other night, Kevin. There is not a lot of true rock stars out there anymore in terms of bands that are doing it. Queens of the Stone Age, Black Keys, Foo Fighters, and that's kind of it right now for rock music. Jack White obviously being the one left off that list. So that is a tough one to fill out. There's very few people doing that music at that tier.
Wow. Who would you put in there, Ben? You asked the question.
Yeah, that's tough because I think part of what I'm looking at in evaluating that is the guys in the Traveling Wilburys, different generation. They all were different bands, but they also played in a style that when you brought them together, they could really work together. So it's not like just a mishmash of here's a heavy metal guy, here's a classic rock guy, here's a folk rock guy. It's they all kind of play within a genre of music that you could easily see them working well together. So try to think of musicians that maybe are within the same kind of genre of music that you're not just throwing a bunch of whatever to the wall and see if it all sticks. Or can these guys really creatively play off of each other and create something that's going to be really, really good. At the same time, they're kind of the transcendent musicians of their generation. So, I mean, I almost would consider taking the guys you threw in there already. I might consider an Eddie Vedder.
Okay.
For vocals, because his working with other things and just his uniqueness. You can like or dislike Eddie Vedder, Pearl Jam, et cetera, but I think he would be kind of one of those guys that so many people have identified with out of the last 20 years or so. Who else I would put in there?
I'll throw you a curveball.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you get her without her husband, but Susan Tedeschi.
Okay.
And if she brought her husband, that wouldn't be bad either.
Right.
Game over. Yeah.
Right.
One that would be interesting, I think, if he would tour, would be McCartney. You throw a different Beatle in there. I mean, he's tight with Dave Grohl and Josh Homme. Supposedly, he's an excellent drummer. I mean, he's played drums on a couple of Foo Fighters tracks over the years. That'd be kind of fun to see him hop behind a drum kit.
Right.
Be a good time.
Yeah. No. This could be a really interesting conversation. I have to put some real thought into this.
Yeah.
So just off the top of the head, it's challenging.
I want us to do a show at some point where we create our super group.
Yeah, super group draft. We need to make it happen.
Right.
Yes.
Let's make it a whole class. We have our 5 or 6 bass players, guitar players, whatever, and then we just do it draft style. I want to make that happen.
We can do a Distillers Mount Rushmore draft.
Right.
And a super group draft. But the point I was making in that, and that was a fun detour we went on, and I hope that people are thinking about who they would make a Wilbury as well. But he's got the track record, he has the creativity, he has uniqueness, he has the respect of others in the industry that he fits that kind of niche.
Yeah.
That I don't think a lot of people would today. But you know, I think there's some really great new bands out there. It's just maybe we need to give them time. So, what about the use of technology in Jack White?
Some pretty interesting stuff going
Yeah.
on. I mean, just his guitar collection alone. I was looking at a Rolling Stone interview from a while back where he talked about the guitars that he uses, and it is wild. But I'm not real qualified to speak on that too much. But one of the things that I love is that he's still doing reel to reel and live tracking on his recordings. Um, we'll talk about this some in next week's show too, I'm sure. But it is really, really hard to get a group of musicians, no matter how high the talent level, to stand in a room together and all play a perfect take. I mean, you're just doing it again and again and again until you get it right. And so for him to kind of like what you were saying earlier, Ben, he does things the hard way.
Right.
You got to really, really respect that. And yes, he's using tech, to do some of those things, different plugins, different pedals, but just the discipline that it would take to get everybody on the same page and stand in a circle and just work it till it gets right. You got to just take your hat off to that.
Right. Now, he uses a lot of effects. Okay. So I'm not sure how well that would go over with a Rick Rubin produced Jack White album. But he uses a lot of different technology, especially when you listen to Fear of the Dawn and his album before this one, Boarding House Reach. There's a lot more technology used in those than in previous albums, the previous 15 or whatever. But it is still done analog, and a great focus is placed on the vinyl aspect of it. And you can look over my shoulder here, if you can see it, where my thumb is pointing. That's my Fear of the Dawn vinyl album, and it showed up on Friday as it should have, and I've listened to it a handful of times since. And when I played it, it's like we get so used to listening to music on our phones through some sort of wireless Bluetooth speaker, and that's just kind of what we accept as being good. But it's night and day. It is just night and day difference. And if you don't go back to vinyl, sometimes you don't realize that there is a huge, huge difference in the quality of that sound.
Agreed.
But he has his own.
Think?
He has his own vinyl pressing plant at Third Man Records up in Detroit as well. So, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Drew.
No, I was just going to ask, what did you guys think of the guitar tone on this record? Because I'll give my 2 cents and then hear what you guys had to think. But I launched into it first thing Friday morning as soon as it came out, and I immediately was like, "Oh, this is the same guitar tone as Lazaretto." Like it's almost identical. But I wasn't sure what all went into that. I'm not as much of a gearhead as some others might be. So what did you guys think of the tones that he used on this record?
I didn't really dig into it that much to be able to break down specifically. But I mean, for me, it sounded a lot like classic Jack White to a degree. But a lot of times I can listen, I'll sit there and I'll start breaking down. Okay, I can hear this effect. I can hear this effect. I can hear this, or I can hear what he's doing here. And then sometimes I'll hear something like, I don't know what they're doing there. We'll have to figure that out. But I mean, I didn't, to make that kind of comparison to a previous album, I haven't picked up on that yet.
Sure.
For me, I think if you look at look at just his solo stuff, I think there's kind of been a progression. And to me, when Blunderbuss and Lazaretto they had some fairly straightforward straightforward by Jack White standards. Okay, some fairly straightforward rock songs on them, but you get into a little bit. You could see where each album he's experimenting with a little something else, and Drew, we talked the other night. It's the little things that you do that can make a huge difference, and that is true both in the way that he may play something, the way something gets mixed, the way just one effect that he adds to a vocal somewhere, and he just keeps kind of building on that. And when Boarding House Reach came out 4 years ago, one of the criticisms is it was just Jack playing around. And first time I listened to it, I didn't really care for it that much, but I went back and listened to it a lot this week, and man, it is very cool. There are a couple of songs on there. It's like, okay, David Byrne, Talking Heads could be singing this. Just very unique, experimenting with different sounds, different drum rhythms, different drums tones, and a lot of that I think carried through to Fear of the Dawn. But I think it was more disciplined. So I think it kind of took the approach that he took to his first two solo records, brought in some of the experimentation that he did in Boarding House Reach, and I think he's got a great balance on this of sticking to a sound that people are going to enjoy and appreciate. It's going to be approachable, but also doing some things that are very different. And I guess if we want to talk a little bit about the album specifically, what are your thoughts? What songs stand out to you? And then we'll talk about how we rate it overall.
Sure. I really enjoyed it. I've listened to it 3 times so far. I mean, it's only been out not even 72 hours yet.
Right.
But the White Raven, 4th or 5th track on that, I really liked. The first listen I gave, I was driving. I had about an hour commute, and that one came on, and I kind of clued back in to it, and it was perked up, got a good riff to it, and everything like that. And then the Morning, Noon, and Night I really liked as well. I was kind of hinting at this earlier. Maybe you guys will agree or disagree. But as far as the guitar tone and some of the things you were saying, there are very few modern guitarists that from the first note, exactly who's playing guitar.
Right.
I don't know many other people besides Gary Clark Jr. and Derek Trucks that are currently making music that right away. This is the one playing. And I think he's carved out a nice little niche for himself. I think Rolling Stone has him as number 70 overall as greatest guitar players ever, which people that's pretty subjective.
Right.
But he has kind of carved out a space for himself, and he kind of sticks to that. Like you were saying, maybe he took the note from the previous couple of records and really kind of honed in and focused that effort with his guitar playing on that. So that's what stood out to me is those couple songs, and then his approach to the guitar playing.
How about it, Ben?
Initial listens through this album, I mean, I can't pick a favorite song. I think overall, I've got to spend a lot more time with this because rolling through it, honestly, nothing really just jumped out to me. Like, a lot of times I'll listen to an album and there's a song or two that immediately just grabs you and this one just stands above all the others. I didn't feel that with this. It's like every song sits on about the same level for me. And honestly, I mean, I enjoyed the listen through, but I'm not blown away by this album in any way. It's good. It's good. And that's right now as I dig into it more, and that's sometimes for me, I'll listen to an album, I'll hear it first 2 or 3 times, and I'm just not not enamored with it. And then I sit and I come back to it 2 or 3 months later, and all of a sudden, bam, it grabs me, and I'm like, holy cow. Okay, I'm hearing this in a different way now. And that may come around, but right now I'm just like, this is good. This is classic. This is Jack White. It's like you said, Drew, it's from the first note, exactly who is playing and who this is, but I haven't heard anything that just like really just kind of grabbed me by the collar and said, this is a song you really got to get down with. And I think that's another part of it for me. Sometimes his sound, as much as he can change things up and different, it also, from one song to the next, it can sometimes just, it's the same thing, beat goes on kind of thing. And I get a little bit of that. There's some good mix up with some of the songs, but at the same time, by the time I'm 4, 5, 6 songs in, I'm not even remembering what the previous 2 or 3 songs were because it's just all starting to kind of run together. And that's my initial impression on this album.
I'll be real interested when Entering Heaven Alive comes out, because these are in a lot of ways twin albums or sibling albums. They're same year, and from the interviews that I've read, very different approaches. I'm wondering if this album will kind of get its completion picture when that one comes out, and we'll kind of get to see both sides or a little bit more, variety from him, and just kind of see 2 different approaches.
Yeah. Good. Yeah, that's a good point. There is one single out on keeping or Entering Heaven Alive, and that is a song called "Love Is Selfish." And to me, that's a better song than this collection. Okay, but I like this album. I like this album a lot. I think "Taking Me Back," which is the first track on the album, was the first single. It was associated with a new Call of Duty game. I mean, this is a great, straightforward rock and roll song. It's the first track that he plays, first song he plays on his tour. So when he starts the show, this starts it, and it's got that distinctive Jack White guitar sound and the Jack White vocal, and it's a really good song. I think throughout this album, it's a great guitar album. There are some excellent guitar solos mixed in here. There are some great. It's a riff heavy album, I think, but you've got some different things mixed in there. The Heidi Ho song. It's probably one of my least favorite songs on the album, but it brings in Q-Tip from A Tribe Called Quest, and he does some rap stuff in there. So again, Jack's kind of going off in a bit of a different direction. A lot of the stuff, there were a couple of songs on the Boarding House Reach album where he was rapping in some of the lyrics. So that I thought that was interesting. Eosophobia, there's a song and a reprise, and Eosophobia actually means fear of the dawn. And I thought those were really good songs. There's a song called End of the Twilight that it sounds like something that would have fit on a Prince album, quite honestly. There's some samples in there. There's a drum machine beat in it, and guitars mixed in there, and it's ordinarily I don't gravitate towards that, but it's a cool song. Now, one thing, there's a song on there called The White Raven, and the opening notes to it are like the intro to Pneuma off of Tool's Fear Inoculum album. And first time I'm listening to this Fear of the Dawn album, I come to that song. That song starts, and I think, okay, did I hit a button or something on my phone? And I've skipped over to the Tool album, and it's just maybe the first couple of bars. It's not exact, but it's very close, and the the lyrics, one of the key words in the lyrics is invincible, which is also a song on that album. So I don't know if there's just kind of a little tip of the cap or something that he's making to Tool, and I've looked for reviews that others have done online, and I can't see anybody that's even made that correlation. But there's either something there, or it's just a really weird coincidence, or somebody should have said, "Hey, Jack, this sounds too much like Numa. You can't do that." And then towards the end of the album, Morning, Noon, and Night, which is a really good song. As it gets towards the end of the song, it kind of tones down and gets a little atmospheric in some of the sound. And it sounded like part of a song by the Black Keys on their Turn Blue album, a song called Weight of Love. And so, again, I don't know if that's a tip of the cap to those guys, or if it's just coincidence or what. But I think there's a lot to dig in on this album. I really enjoyed it. I think it's probably his best of his solo work. But I was a big fan of the last album that he had out was Help a Stranger by the Raconteurs, and that was one of my favorite albums of that year. So if you've not gotten to the Raconteurs, that's a great place to start. It's kind of the last of that era, but it's really, really good stuff. But I like the album. I thought it was a hit. I think that it's from the very beginning, those first distorted chords of Taking Me Back, basically through Morning, Noon, and Night. It is wave after wave of just high energy and great guitar stuff. So I enjoyed the album.
Oh. Me too. I will be really excited when the three of us get together for Bourbon and Beyond, which we're all definitely going to do, and see his set and to hear how this plays out, because the other record will be out by then.
Yeah. So. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, because Bourbon and Beyond is in September, right?
I believe that's correct. Yep.
Yeah. Ben, you made a correlation earlier, and I wanted to come back to that. And that's the correlation between a musical act and distilling. And my point would be that, and I think it was kind of what you were saying. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you can comment on this. That I don't know that there's a better musician that correlates better to distilling than Jack White. And our reason for saying that is, maybe I should clarify that, craft distilling. Okay.
Sure.
He's willing to try different things. He's willing to explore different ideas, and uses some old school technology as well as some new school stuff. And to me, there's a correlation there, because part of what we do on the show is talk about both, and when there's a correlation to be found, I think that's worth exploring. Now, is that too contrived? I don't know. You guys tell me.
No, I don't think so.
I think that's a good.
Yeah, go ahead, Drew.
No, I was just going to say I agree. Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, same thing. Pretty good analysis there, in my opinion. So I'd have to, again, something I'd have to really think about with different artists who out there would correlate or compare. But Jack White's his approach to music, his approach to his craft and what he does, I think it correlates very well to what a lot of craft distillers are doing.
Yeah.
So,
because you could tell me that you could say, hey, Jack White's coming out with an album in X genre. I don't care what it is. It's not going to surprise me.
Right.
He's going to come out with a bluegrass album. Of course he is.
Yeah,
sure.
The man's worked with Loretta Lynn and Insane Clown Posse. Like one of these friends is not like the other. But
Right.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Now you remember when recently Dolly Parton was put up for nomination Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yep.
And she sent out an Instagram post politely and graciously declining consideration, saying that
Right.
she had not earned that right.
Mhm.
Jack White was one of the people that after that reached out to her and would you want to work together? So maybe we'll
Right.
get a Dolly Parton album produced by Jack White.
Hell yeah. I'm in.
That would be awesome. Oh my gosh. Because it's been a while since I've listened to the Loretta Lynn stuff that he was involved with, but that was pretty cool, I thought.
Yeah. Agreed.
Any other thoughts on well, let me ask you this. Any specific albums, any of the group, regardless of which band or solo stuff, any of the albums that you would say, if you've never listened to Jack White before, you need to listen to this, what would you say?
Man, that's tough.
Yeah.
Mine would just be because it's my favorite, I think, but Lazaretto would be where I would start most people off. And then, like, if that doesn't scare you a little bit, then we'll branch into some other things.
Okay.
Just for me.
Yeah. Okay.
Are you looking at mainly his solo stuff or just everything that he's been involved in?
Anything from the first White Stripes album to this album.
Oh man. I'm kind of with you, Kevin, on the whole the White Blood Cells album.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of been one of my favorites, and that's one where Elephant, there's some good hits and stuff, and that's just very classic, but I don't know. I kind of lean towards White Blood Cells.
I don't know that you can go wrong there.
Yeah.
But it starts with Dead Leaves in the Dirty Ground, which that's, I think, a very underrated Jack White song. And you've got things like Fell in Love with a Girl, which is fantastic. And then you've got a kind of a toned down song like We're Going to Be Friends. That's a tough album to beat. I think that really exemplifies a lot of what he was about. But yeah, I think that would probably be my choice. But if you had to pick one song that you said, okay, you've never heard Jack White before, listen to this song and you'll get it.
I don't think I can answer that question.
Icky Thump.
Icky Thump. That's a good one.
Yeah, just because the sound, the feel, the vibe of that whole song, I think that's going to just set you on or set a foundation for here's kind of the craziness you can expect from Jack White, and the improvisation and just the even lyrically kind of what he does with stuff. So
Any thoughts, Drew?
I really don't know that I could answer too good. I'll tell you to one. I don't know that I can pick a favorite, but one that I really loved was when he did "You Are the Sunshine of My Life," and that's just a fun cover. It's not an original, but I'm gonna play it safe tonight and go.
All
with
right,
that
that's
right.
All right, I would say Ball and Biscuit, and I think that hits all of the everything that Jack White was, is, and will be. I think you can it kind of is there in that song, and it's got that great distorted guitar sound, some outstanding solos, and just kind of some quirky offbeat lyrics to it. And the Social Network movie. First time I watched that, even before, while it's still the screen before where it's showing the production company, I think it was Paramount, I don't remember, but it's showing that, and you hear the opening riff to Ball and Biscuit, and I'm like, okay, this is a good movie. This is a good movie. And the entire first scene of that movie has Ball and Biscuit playing in the background while they're talking in some bar. So
Pretty
yeah,
cool.
so this is going to be a good movie because of that. So, but again, again, as I mentioned before, you divide Jack White songs into two categories: songs in which he yelps woo, and songs in which he does not yelp woo. By my count, there are 3 songs on the Fear of the Dawn album that would fall into the yelping woo category. So,
Right.
you know, pick your
Outstanding.
favorite. Okay. Anything else on Jack or this album that we want to go over?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah. I can't think of anything else at the moment, but
Okay. I would recommend it. Highly recommend it. At least give it a shot. This is new music, new whiskey show. There are a couple of other new releases out that you should be aware of. And some of them are worth your time. Some of them aren't. There's a new single from whatever Pink Floyd is these days. I would take a hard pass on that. I love Pink Floyd, but this is kind of garbage, in my opinion. I don't know if you guys have heard it.
nope.
Yep. Alex Lifeson of the guitarist for Rush. He has a band now called Envy of None. And if you're thinking, hey, this will be great, it'll be like Rush, it is not. Historically, it was said that Alex didn't really like the keyboard focused albums of Rush. You wouldn't know it by listening to this. It's a lot of keys, a lot of electronic stuff. The guitars are very muted. The vocal, I can't remember the name of the vocalist, but she's very interesting. It's worth a listen. But if you go into it thinking, hey, it's Alex Lifeson, this will be like Rush, you will be disappointed. One other to mention is the new Red Hot Chili Pepper album.
Yeah.
Now, Drew, I know that you and I've talked a little bit about that. What are your thoughts on it?
Yep. Oh, it's great. Great to see Frusciante back in the band for the 3rd time, I think is what we figured out. Rick Rubin's back in the producer seat. It's a classic Chili Peppers record.
Yep.
I'm a big fan. Some great stuff in their most recent interviews on the Broken Record podcast. So I was a fan of those and have really enjoyed kind of falling back in love with the Chili Peppers. Not necessarily anything I typically gravitate towards, but I'll give it any of them a listen, and I really enjoyed that as well.
Yeah, we'll have to do a new whiskey, new music show on that one sometime before it's not new music anymore. But in the meantime, give that a listen. I think you'll enjoy it if you like the Chili Peppers. It is some very classic Red Hot Chili Peppers music, and really well done. All right, so let's talk about where folks can find you all on social media. Drew,
go ahead, Ben. Oh, yeah. All right, so you can find me on Instagram at drew.crawley63 and on Twitter at drewcrawley63. I'm actually getting ready to kick off a very full summer of shows, most of which I will be putting out exclusively through Instagram. So if you don't follow me there, and you have any interest in coming out, we're going to be all over in the next couple of months. We're going to be in Lexington. We're going to be out in Westport, Kentucky for the Bluegrass Festival. Hoping to lock in some national dates, and then a bunch of stuff here in Louisville. So pretty much every Friday and Saturday from now through August, we've got stuff. So give it a follow, and if you like, my music, that would be a great place to find out where I'm playing.
Awesome. I do like your music, and I do like to find out where you're playing. So, especially when you have mannequins as your backup singers, that is very unique.
Good time.
Ben, how about you, sir? Where can folks find you?
What is this social media you speak of? You can find me at Padawan_distiller on Instagram, and that's a great place to kind of follow what I'm doing distilling wise here in Kentucky. Kind of just a fun take on what we do behind the scenes. So
Yeah, and it is a great account for anyone that does not know. Ben is a new distiller at Kentucky Artisan Distillery, working over there with Jade, and he has started an Instagram account that called Padawan Distiller, and it's basically pulling the curtain back and saying, okay, so this is what being a distiller is really like.
Right.
It's not a bunch of people posed like this, all day long. It's not what it is. It's cleaning out fermenters and repairing broken hoses and basically getting
it's
wet
a lot of dirty work.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's probably 80% of the time we're cleaning something. Lots of cleaning or fixing something. So I think there's this image, a lot of social media, a lot of stuff out there of guys standing in barrel houses, sampling whiskey, swirling around the glass or whatever. And it's like, that never happens. That just doesn't happen.
Yep.
No, it's a lot of dirty, hard work, but it's a lot of fun too. And I enjoy the heck out of it. So.
Yeah. Well, follow Bourbon Turntable. You can find us on Instagram or Facebook or even Twitter. You can listen to the show. You can watch the show on YouTube, and you can listen to the show on your favorite podcast platform. So tune in, subscribe, like, share, review, tell your friends, tell your enemies. We don't care. We'll take anybody that is interested. Now, our next show, Drew, tell us about that.
Yeah, we're doing something different, what we're calling the Breakthrough Show. So we're going to have a couple of musicians on. New friend, but a friend nonetheless, Ryan Nietzsche from the Buffalo Gospel is going to be joining us for National. And then my dear friend and musical collaborator, Kevin Niehoff, is going to be joining us as well. We're going to talk about what it's like to be an independent musician, how our mutual love of whiskey plays into our music, and discuss their kind of projects and stuff that they're working on. So really looking forward to that one.
Yeah. We did a Distillers Breakthrough Show last month, and we're doing a Musicians Breakthrough Show this month. And at some point, we'll get everybody together and compare notes, because I think there's a correlation there. As someone who is neither a musician nor a distiller, I still have an opinion, and I think there's a correlation there. I may be completely wrong because I'm unqualified in both categories, but that is still my opinion. And you like it, agree with it. If you agree with it, great. If you don't, that's okay too. But that is our show for tonight. Check out the Jack White album. We will have a playlist. May have two playlists actually for this one. So we'll have a couple playlists that'll go along with the show, and you'll get a nice sampling of our thoughts on Jack and his music. But until next time, when we're talking about distiller or musicians breaking through, cheers, love, and free bird.
Cheers.
Good night, everybody.
Bye, guys.